Okay, that concludes. Do you still have the floor?
It's got 4 minutes.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more.
Got 2 more.
Okay. Dr. Sue just reminded me of the time limit per our policy. By 10:30, we need a vote to extend the meeting time.
Is that a motion? Is it a motion that is needed?
I think so.
Consensus?
Okay. Okay, we can do it a different way. I'm estimating for another half an hour, so to 11 o'clock. Do I have a consensus to,
I'd like to actually do it till 11:15, being that we have 10 cards. I want to give every opportunity to those that waited so long. Oh, then 11:30. I'm not saying we stay till 11:30, but I want to give them that opportunity that no one gets cut off. It's,
I will really appreciate any participant in the audience to help us keep the meetings in order. We are still discussing. Okay, so Ms. Johnson, you are proposing 11:30?
11:30, yes, at 3 minutes apiece.
Okay, is that a consensus?
Yes.
What is
Okay.
a board policy? You know, I'm really glad the parents to stay. I apologize you stayed so long for the matter like to present. The board has policy there, then if we override, then we need to get approved overriding the board policy there. What's the policy
Should not
time?
be discussed.
The policy says at 10:30, we need to take a vote.
Then we last,
How much time we're going to extend the meeting to. So Ms. Johnson right now is proposing we extend the meeting till 11:30.
I have a comment.
you know, I'm sorry, Flo, I respect the parents, you know, I know they here waiting so long already. Due to the matter of fact, we have a staff presentation, so hold you back in here. I support Ms. Johnson's suggestion.
Okay,
And
do
I
we
just
have a consensus?
Oh, and I just have one more comment. I just want the board to be really mindful to allow the folks that waited so long. I don't want to be in violation of any Brown Act by not letting them speak at a public comment. So just be mindful of that.
Ms. Johnson, we are not forbidding or
Oh, I'm not saying that.
any
Yeah, yeah.
person to speak. Mrs. Yu is in charge of public comments, and I think she's doing a fine job. Okay, since I don't see consensus, we'll take a vote. Okay, Mrs. Johnson just proposed to extend the meeting till 11:30. Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, we take a roll call.
Actually, I'm sorry, I have a quick, so extending to up to 11:30 or
Up to,
up to 11:30?
Yes.
Okay,
So, can somebody do the math then? What's 3 minutes?
times
times
12,
37.
36.
Oh, there,
About 40 minutes, we could end earlier. Go ahead.
you could. Speak fast.
Mr. Apodaca?
Yes.
Mrs. Chin?
yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Law?
No.
Mrs. Mendoza? Ms. Desai?
Yes?
Mrs. Yu?
Yes.
Okay, since we're extending to 11:30, up to 11:30, and we're all tired, let's take a 10 minutes break.
I'm sorry, excuse me. President Chen, may I recommend, we do need to take a break at 10:45 because this is videotaped, and we do need to make a tape change at 10:45. And let's just take our 5-minute break at the time that we're required to make a tape change. I also want to remind the board that when we have multiple speakers speaking on the same subject, our process and procedures that you may appoint somebody to speak on behalf of the group, because otherwise we may just simply hear the same issue repeated multiple times. So you are free to select somebody, perhaps at some point, to speak on behalf of the group as well. That's an option.
So should we have the speakers speak and then take a break at 10:45, right?
No, we take a break now.
Yeah. No, later. Yeah, because we have to change the tape at 10:45. Okay, so we have a lot of speakers, so if you guys can kind of line up and take 3 minutes each. We're going to start with Anushan Sinha, and you have 3 minutes. And I do want to remind you that at 10:45, we have to take a break because we have to change the tape. Thank you for your cooperation. Go ahead.
Thanks a lot. My name is Anshuman Sinha. My son goes to Whitney, and I'm the president of Whitney Indian Parent Association. This point item is for lunch shade area, and my other colleagues will be talking a lot about it. I would just like to remind member trustee area 5, Shay, that, if we are talking about, the needs of the student, then, this is the time for you to step up and, bring it to the agenda item and then, vote for it, because our kids are really, eating lunch. And I was talking to my son today, and he said that, from the start of the school year till, late October, and then again from March, the sun is really hot, and, they have to bear that. And some of the junior students, who cannot go and, grab lunch shaded area, the 7th grader, the 8th grader, and the 9th graders, they are really, out in the sun. So, I would request you to kindly look into that in a favorable manner and give us an opportunity to, have our kids a shaded area for the lunch. That would be all, so that, other members can talk. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next speaker, Vijay Raja. Okay. Mura Ahanya. Yeah. Okay. And the next person is Atendara Amin. If you can just line up. Thank you very much.
My name is Murali Ahania, President, Superintendent, and the ST members. Again, as Mr. Anshuman said, I'm going to repeat the same stuff. It's mostly the shade, and some of my friends also might come up with the same stuff. Like all the students are facing this during in the summer time, as well as the shade will continue during the graduation time also. This is an esteemed school, and we don't have a shade when the students having lunch, as well as a huge graduation party is going on. All the parents, grandparents, all the students are sitting outside in the sun. So I just want to bring it to the, the members here to see anything can be done for our students. ABC stands for All About Children, our students. So thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ashutosh Unish. Next speaker, please line up, would be Abhinar Mehta.
Hi, greetings to all. My name is Ashutosh Kisti. My daughter goes to Whitney, and I just want to echo to our VPA president what he brought up as a point, like having to the shades. Like our state, we know outside it's a sunny California that goes very good for a solar business, but actually when it comes to the afternoon lunches, you guys can imagine like what the pain like the students can go through. So I request board members basically please take this for your decision and approach the shades. And this will help not any particular community, color, race or religion. It will help all the students. So basically, so I request all board members to please consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Malar Manivan and Veena Kedila. And Anantha Marian. And then Jenny Park is next.
Honorable school board members, Dr. Siu and other district staff, my name is Anantha Narayanan. I'm the past president and current board member of Whitney Indian Parents Association. Last time when I spoke here before the board, I requested the board to look into the idea of spending its budget surpluses to many important items that needs to be fixed in Carmenitas Towers and Whitney High School. And I'm very confident that the board will see the necessity of that request and in its great collective wisdom will help our school and students. This time I'm here to request you to discuss the agenda item 1.4-1. I just wanted to request for all the schools, RTCS, Cerritos, GAR, and Whitney, not only for Whitney alone. The CDC in its guidelines for shade planning for American schools lists the following health effects of exposure to sun during the peak radiation period. They include sunburn, immediate tanning, delayed tanning, photoaging of skin, eye damage, basal cell cancer, squamous cell cancer, and the severe case of melanoma. And strongly advise school boards and administrators to institute measures to prevent children from getting exposed to harmful UV radiation by providing shade structures in the school. I'm sure the board, school administration, principals, and parents would definitely agree with the CDC on the need for providing shade structures in our schools. So I would like to present two strategies for the school board and the district. First one is to modify the existing structure and create artificial shades where children gather and socialize, such as lunch place and playgrounds. The second is to strategically place natural vegetation such as vines, shade-producing trees, and shrubs in majority of open spaces in the school. We also need to come up with a long-term strategy to increase the green cover in all our district schools, because Cerritos is the tree city of USA, so ABCUSD should be the tree school district of the USA, right? So that's what I want. And I finally feel that, this will be a win-win for all of us, because these structures can be used as covered outdoor learning areas, right? The teachers can take the children outside. That's what I learned in my schools when I was young. Take them to the outdoor area and then, make them interact with the nature so that they can start loving the planet more. They can, so that's one thing I wanted to really ask the board to take a look into it. It's not about who is asking where they come from, which position they are coming from. It's not about that. It's about the children and the school and what do they need and what kind of learning environment. I think it's a first world problem. Dr. Sue and the administration has done a great job in creating high student achievement ratios, low expulsion ratios, all these things. Now, it's like a first world problem. You have all the cars, you have all the appliances in your home, you have a new home in a third world country. Now people demand roads, people demand electricity, people demand so many other things like that. You have achieved all the stuff that we are really proud of, but I think it's a first world. Now we are demanding some other things. So you should take it in a positive sense, and then it's nothing to do saying that nobody did anybody. Nobody's pointing fingers at anybody that they did not do this job or not do, because this is not something new. Dr. Sue knows, Dr. Buss knows, Dr. Brickley, Mr. Brickley knows, all the other principals, Mr. Tracy knows, Mr. Song knows, all of them know all these problems. So I think it's high time that we take a look into that, and my request is the board to give the direction to them, help them out. And we are here to help you out, and I want the board to help them out. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Jenny Park?
Good evening. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for your time. Again, we're from Whitney High parents group, and same concerns that we have here. We're asking for you to consider having more tables and chairs and shades for the lunch areas. I'm sure many of you have had a chance to visit school more than one more occasion, and already noticed that we're lacking a lot of tables and chairs, and there's simply no shades. And most of the 7th and 8th and 9th graders, they are not near any of those tables and chairs. Most of 7th and 8th and 9th graders are sitting on the corner, on the floor, and just imagine having those 7th and 8th graders just leaving their utensils and napkins on the floor and picking them up and just eating and wiping their face, and it's just I think that's it's just not inconvenient, but I think it's unsanitary as well. So just consider that, and hope you guys can come to the conclusion of visit the school and maybe have, a few more chairs and tables and some shades for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ray Boland.
Good evening. I'm Ray Bolanos, and I'm a Whitney parent. I've been with the school since 2003, so it's my 14 years now. And all those years, I haven't seen any improvement for Whitney High School. And I guess it's about time that the board considers like what my colleagues are, suggesting for the students to have shades for lunch. Okay? And I hope you take a good look at it. Besides, Whitney has given pride to ABC, and it's about time to give them back something. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker is Pal Tolentino.
Yes, good evening, Madam President Chen, Dr. Mary Sue, and board members. My name is Paul Tolentino. I'm a Whitney High School parent for 13 consecutive years with Ray and my colleagues. I'd like to request the same thing, the shade. We need that one, and luncheon table. If you guys could consider it, we really need it. I did some actually asking my kids. I have 3 kids attended Whitney High School, and I have nieces and nephews there too. So I did my homework, and they said that it's really hot during lunchtime. So if you guys could consider it, and that's all we ask for now. And thank you again for a job well done, and then your tireless effort for keeping our district as a top district of the nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now with the tape change, I'd like to resume on the discussion portion of item 1.4I. President Chen had to leave early, so at this time, I'd like to open up the board member discussion. Board member Say.
I have a couple questions to make the clarification of this issue. I heard the parent talking about, I'm 100% support, but, because I remember my kids when they were in the high school, and actually someone went to Whitney High School. I remember when you mentioned about, say, the history just went back. Yes, my kids will sit in the locker area, eating and do homework. I never forget that when I dropped by the school. I said, still the same. I remember once in a while, also, parents was getting involved and donated money for the chair and the table. And I looked some of the area, like Cerritos High School, the shady areas, a little table with the umbrella looks so old and color discolored already there. It is sad. It's sad. And the thing that you want for your kids, not just your kids, it's our kids too. It's like a legacy to me when my kids are small and what I had done and what you had done for your kids. I want to echo to Indian parents. I know, I did study about your organization. I know you folks very generously and support Whitney High School needs. But however, now my question comes to Tuan. What is the facility ECHA, the board member, to make the decision have ECHA? I know all the board members have 2 committee members represent for us. What is their purpose for that? Can you explain to the public? And what is it?
Yes, ma'am. I think in April of this year, the board formed the Facilities Ad Hoc Advisory Committee, and we have been meeting since May onward. It's been very productive. It's a 19 members committee that have met monthly. I think there was one time that they met twice to basically look at the facility master plan that we have and updating that, review that, and we'll make recommendation to the board. That's my recollection of the charge of that committee on basically the facility needs of all of our schools, the 29 schools, plus all the district facilities, plus the adult schools. So that's where we are, plus, district office, MOT, the DAO, and all of the facilities that we have, and make recommendation to the board on the needs of the school. So they have been making really good progress, and I believe that the first report to the board is in October next month. that the board have asked them to give them an update. So they have come up with different teams, and they will plan to visit every single school.
When?
Beginning hopefully next month. We haven't worked out the schedule yet. And to meet with a team from the school, they have asked that each school will form a facility needs committee by school that's involved parents, community members, students, and staff to share with the ad hoc committee the needs of each school. And then they will look at that recommendation or the needs from each of the school, and then they will make their recommendation, their debate to the board.
But the way you say the process, it's going to be kind of, I mean, this is hot right now. The weather is really hot. I understand that, like we say the pie, Does that ad hoc committee is open to the public too? Can it come?
Yes, ma'am. The ad hoc committee, like any subcommittee, advisory committee, I'm sorry, I don't mean to say this, of the board is subject to the Brown Act and subject to, it's an open meeting.
And we also have a board liaison represent for the board member here for the district board, right?
Yes, they both sitting right next to you.
Oh, sorry. I know that. So if in case when there's issue there, because there's really cautious need, I understand that, because even elementary school, I talked to one of the parents, even elementary school, they're swing, if you look the city, I think the safety, everything's about safety, Even the kids exposed to the sun for too long, it is cause skin cancer if we don't have any shade to protect them. And Gavin rightly just mentioned that too. We all need the money, we need for everywhere. Do we have the money? I believe we have some money there, but the money there, the pie has been divided already there. So now, how do we do that to speed up the process of have the 16 members go in the individual school to ask them what the needs they need to have, and then how fast the decision will make? Can you give me the estimate time for that?
The board actually, when you created the committee, you do give them timeline to do that. It was an ad hoc committee, so it was a 1-year charge. They're supposed to report back to you by June of 2017, a final report. They will be, I believe, in October, and also a second update is in January of 2017. So they are aware of their charge. They are aware of the timeline that was asked of them, that by June 2017, hopefully they will finish their work. They take their job and their charge very seriously if you attend the meetings, and they want to make sure that they visit, give enough times to visit each of the school, look at the needs of each school, and it's more than just bench tables or shades. It's comprehensive. It's everything from program needs to new technology to 21st century classroom learning environment to the basic needs to code compliant. So they plan to look at it comprehensively, look at everything, all the needs of the school.
So there are some basic needs that for the students, as far as like technology, we need that. We heard a teacher from our teacher school, they want a technology, and we also hear the parent here tonight talking about shade, as a nurse practitioner, I do consider the health issue there. But again, how can we help them? I think really that decision really should go back to facility ECHA. And I really ask our board liaisons to look into it. How can we help the parents here? But then the other thing is there's a budget there. Which one we should give it to you? Which one should give it to others? Then that really the facility ECHA will go into and look into it, what is the best interesting for the students, what is the best thing for student needs, the technology, the shade, and what can parent can help on this in this matter. I remember as a PTA person in the past, there are things we really run right away, and for our own kids' needs, parents will get together, do fundraising, or ask the local business people for donated money. I remember our vice president today, Chris Apodaca, he had it done for one of the school. He asked people to come in donation, I think. I am trying to working on that for some school needs, but I'm waiting for people to answer me back. I think this is part of as a board, that we should open our arm to help you guys as much we can. But again, there's a facility ad hoc. The thing needs to be going there to see what is the best interest to our students. Like you said, for all students. And I'm really support that this shade. But however, I don't want to micromanage our staff or our board member here. Have them to oversee carefully, look into the needs and how prompt we can meet the needs. I hate to say it's wishes. You know, I remember last 2 years ago we talked about the wish. I think it's a need. And that's my question. I really want to get directed to facility ad hoc.
This is an item that all high school have put as a need in their current facility master plan. Just so you know. So they have told us there's a need when the board trying to do something with that, even back in 2014. This is a need that is currently in the current facility master plan, is the shade for all high school, for all schools.
We do have reserved some money on the facility before. You know, we also have reserved the money. You know, we can't, I mean, again, we're also waiting for other, we're waiting for another fiscal thing, looking for the budget, and what's the most interesting to which party is here. And that also will go back to the facility ad hoc, right? The best interest to them.
Yeah, the ad hoc committee will make recommendation to the board in terms of the facility needs of each school. So you get that comprehensive report from them.
That when it's going to be? I'm sorry, I know the date, but
right.
I want to publicly
I want to say
that.
June is when you give them the charge. You would say you want the final report by June of 2017. The board have asked them to complete their work by June 2017.
That'll be my question.
Thank you, Tuan. Thank you, Board Member Say. Board Member Johnson.
Yes, I'd like to thank the board for allowing me to place this information item on the agenda. I happened to attend both the Cerritos High PTSA and the Whitney Indian parent meetings, and both groups had discussions about the need for shades and table benches for their students. It is a necessity since it is a safety issue. There is need to protect students from the heat of the sun, and there's need for students to have a clean environment to eat as opposed to sitting on the ground. I know for myself, I would not be able to spend 180 days sitting outside without a shade or a table to sit at. And I don't think there are any administrators or teachers that would be able to do the same. At the Cerritos High PTSA meeting, they mentioned that they have already obtained a bid proposal, and I actually have a copy, and the board has copies of it as well, and there were copies over there at the table. And so they've already started and obtained a bid proposal for shade construction at a cost of about $91,000. I realize that it still needs to be examined by district staff to ensure that it meets ABC criteria. But it is a start to a dialogue that needs to be had. I have also received information that was sent to the entire board that a standard shade would have been approximately $69,000 and another $17,000 for about 20 bench tables. These are just estimates, and more research needs to be done. I also realize that the board may think that this should be deferred to the Facilities Committee. I sit on the Facilities Committee. They are tasked with identifying needs of our schools. Cerritos High and Whitney High have already identified that there is a need for the shade and tables. It would not make sense to defer it to the Facilities Committee because whatever the Facilities Committee recommends, they will present it to the board. Therefore, I don't think it makes sense to bounce this topic back and forth when it already has been established that the schools need the shade. I don't think anyone can argue that having a shade and lunch tables at our high schools are needed. So far, we've only heard from Cerritos High and Whitney High. Artesia is here in the audience, but I'd also like to see equity across the district. Having shade at the high schools actually benefits all of our students, including the elementary and middle schools, because eventually they'll end up at those high schools. I don't support that PTSA or foundations should raise the money for the shades and tables. This is a safety issue. It is the district's responsibility to ensure that our students are safe. Being that this is just an information item only, I'd like to ask the board to support further discussion about the shades and also give time for staff to provide more information. Yes vote tonight, if I were to make a motion, a yes vote tonight does not mean you are supporting shade at this time. It means you are supporting that the board have further discussion and for the board to take action at our next meeting. At the future meeting, the board members can decide if they will vote to have or to oppose shade. After hearing the concerns of our parents tonight, I am urging my colleagues that they will consider their comments. Currently, there are $4.4 million in one-time funding that can be used at the board's discretion. That could be an option to fund this project, but certainly I'd like to hear other options for sources of funding. But that would require the board to discuss it at a future date. So tonight's item is not to decide any approval for shade or source of funding. We need to place that on a future agenda to do that. So at this time, I'd like to request to place this item as an action item at the October 4th meeting for the board to discuss the approval of shades and tables for Artesia, GAR, Cerritos, and Whitney High School, and to discuss options for source of funding. That is my motion. If I could have a second, please.
Second.
It has been motioned and seconded to place this agenda item from information only to an action item. There are two comments. We have Mr. Law, and then following that would be Mrs. Yu.
Thank you, Mr. President, sort of President, Mr. Vice President, President. I think we're going about this the wrong way. The facility committee was charged with the goal of looking at facilities and the needs of the facilities. We're bypassing that by having the board vote on it before the facility committee looks at it. That seems really backwards to me. And Tuan mentioned the high schools. Well, when we did the study in 2014, every single facility in this district had that as a high priority. Priority of benches and priority of sunshades. And if you go to one school or two or three, I don't know what happened to Tracy, I guess they don't get anything, but that is not equity. That is not equity in our system. We believe in everybody. I mean, it's a problem because we only have $4 million. If we'd have passed the bond, we would have had plenty of money to do this. But how do you divide $4 million among 30 schools that want sunshades and benches? My grandkids go to a school in which there's 800 plus elementary students. They have to have 3 lunches, and they're sitting in 27 rows of benches, and the sun comes right straight through those slats. It's really not a sunscreen, it's just wooden slats. If the sun happens to be in the middle of winter, maybe it's going to make shade, but right now it's no shade. So I think we need to consider this going to the committee where it belongs to go to, not having the board act on it before the committee gets to look at it. If the group here from Whitney is interested in doing this, interested in being part of this, we will have a team that's going to be going to Whitney. And part of that team is not only the teachers and people at that school, but the parents. And the parents need to come and express their needs to that particular group that's going to be at Whitney, just as they will be doing at all the other schools. When we compile all that and we come up with this is what we need to do, these are the kinds of things we can do, we got $4 million, we can't do that. So what are we going to do? And then eventually we're going to talk about whether we're going to do another bond or not. But right now, this is just, to me, jumping the gun. We're eliminating a group that we all appointed, and we're eliminating their input. And I don't think that's right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Law. The board acknowledges Mrs. Yu.
Okay, thank you. The schools have already identified the needs of each schools, and this is an immediate need for students, for shades, tables, and sitting. And I think to be equitable, to move forward with this, to support the high schools at least, to start out with, I think that would be a wise, step to take. So I want to support this project, and for our board to do further discussion and further research into this the funding and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Yu. Chair acknowledges Ms. Johnson.
I just want to be clear, I'm only asking for the 4 high schools, not the elementary schools. And if you add up the costs for the 4 high schools, I don't even think it's $500,000. So certainly it can be done. That's why it's being brought up now, because it can be done. It doesn't need to go to a facility committee, because all they do is identify the project. The project has been identified, the principals know it, the parents know it, the money is there. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Johnson. The chair acknowledges Mr. Law.
Thank you. If you utilize the numbers that were produced in 2014 in our facilities master plan, the cost at Whitney High School is $507,192 plus $91,000 for benches. And the total cost for the district, if we were to do all the things that were in this list, is $12 million. We can't do that. Come on. And why are we just picking on one school and we're going to help out Whitney? Well, what happens to the rest of the schools? We can't afford it. We can't do it. We need to get behind another way to fund this, and this is not the way to fund it. It's to take money from all the schools and give it to one school.
Board Member Say, and I'd like to insert myself in the queue after you.
Thank you, Vice President. My concern is the process and chain command, and my concern is the needs. There's a needs here, but there's a process here. The process is how the school common practices that we always mention about what the legal thing we should do. I looked at both sides. The needs is important, the common, the process also is important. You come up here to Whitney High School, also Cerritos High School, if I acknowledge that too, both need the shade area. There's a needs there, but there also is a process there. As elected official, we're trying to fulfill the parent needs as much as we can. But however, there is a process, chain command. I'm glad you come forward to let us know what the needs. But however, there is facility ad hoc there for us to, because you ought to see what else the needs in there. You might want to see, say, you know what, shade, maybe we can deal with it, we need this. So that is very important to see the pie. The pie needs for your children in your school or other school, Cerritos High School, Artesia High School, Whitney High School, you all the same to me. Like I just said before, no matter who you are, what you are, the same to me. But we need to look into carefully about the pie. You might want to see what else they need for your school. I suggest you still, before I prove this one for tonight, for the next thing, I really like to see the needs. But we're not done yet. You have $10. If you spend $5 for shade and you look back and say, oh, I want my money actually doing this, you will regret it, because this is not the wish, it's the needs of the student. That we need to look into it. And please consider that right away to see the 10-piece pie, which one's most important for you? The shade or other things? You need to look at the needs from each school. And I like to see the percent off.
Thank you, Board Member Say. I'd like to make a few comments. By a show of hands, how many folks here live in Hawaiian Gardens, are from Hawaiian Gardens? How many folks here are from Artesia? How many folks here are from Cerritos? Okay. How many folks are from Lakewood? Downey, Norwalk, Long Beach? Anybody? The reason why we set up this ad hoc committee was to have full representation from all of our trustee areas. My opinion is that my trustee area is not adequately represented in this group. They are the ones who elected me, just as we each have trustee areas that elected us. I'd like to hear from the folks from Hawaiian Gardens and the other parts of our district. Appreciate you being here at this late hour. And Board Member Johnson, I was trying to get your attention. I accidentally cleared her. She still had the floor. Would you yield your time to her? Would you?
I'm just concerned that we have 5 minutes, and if we're going to take a vote, I'd like to actually call to the previous question right now.
Okay, we have
There's a motion.
There's a motion on the table. We have a board member calling the question to end discussion and move to a vote. Laura, would you please perform a roll call? Is there a second? Yeah, second. Board Member Mendoza seconding it.
Mr. Apodaca?
Yes.
Mrs. Chen? Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Law? No. Mrs. Mendoza? Yes. Mrs. Say?
Yes.
Mrs. Yu?
Yes.
We have five.
Discussion has ended.
Correct.
At this point, we have a motion on the table that has been seconded. To take item 1.4I, shade tables and seating at Artesia High School, Cerritos High School, GAR, and Whitney High Schools, and move it to an action item. Laura, would you please perform a roll call?
Mr. Apodaca?
No.
Ms. Chen? Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Law? No. Mrs. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mrs. Say?
Yes.
Mrs. Yu?
Yes.
Laura, would you please repeat the roll call, yeas and nays?
Mr. Apodaca, no. Ms. Johnson, yes. Mr. Law, no. Mrs. Mendoza, yes. Mrs. Say, yes. Mrs. Yu, yes.
The yeses have it. Motion carries.